As a career coach and committee member of Women in Mining South Africa, I have the opportunity on a daily basis to meet some really fascinating people. My name is Bryony Lieber, and in this conversation I'm interviewing Sharnie Malan, Customer Services Director for Europe Jaguar Land Rover. We talk about transitioning into a new position during COVID-19, how Sharnie built relationships virtually, how courage has shown up in her career, how imposter syndrome has sometimes got in her way, the importance of networking, and the concept of managing your career as a business.
Thank you, Baroni, for giving me this opportunity. My name is Sharnie Malan. I'm the Customer Service Director for Jaguar Land Rover, responsible for the entire Europe. And interesting enough, Brownie, you always ask me, where do I form this role from? It's actually not in Europe. I've been working and running this position from top of my garage for the last 2 years, thank you to COVID, as well as other various constraints that I've been facing. And it's been a very interesting journey, to say the least.
The image of somebody running the work that you do from the room above your garage is quite an interesting one. And having stepped into your position in the middle of COVID, I think is quite a fascinating point to start with, because I've spoken to a lot of people who said they couldn't build relationships during COVID because everything was virtual. And so they put a hold on a lot of things until they could do things in person. You started this position and have had to build strong relationships virtually. And I think, if I remember correctly, you only really met your team in person a few months ago. So how have you managed to do this? What is your philosophy around building relationships?
Literally what you said is I only met my team face to face for the first time a year after I started managing them. And during that process, we went through retrenchment, organizational restructuring, all of the challenges that comes with a normal position that you need to manage on a face-to-face basis, with emotion, with people involved, with hearts and minds at stake. And for me, the most important aspect is to show up honestly, vulnerable, to say, I don't know what the route is. I'm not coming to tell you what to do. What do we do together to get through this? And really understood who's the person on the other side of the screen. I think that for me was the critical way of creating and connecting with people, is first made that personal connection, and also showing up vulnerable and really honest about what my situation were. I think COVID and actually, work through Zoom or through Teams have been very interesting, with children interrupting or family members running past. And I think that is what I let happen naturally. So I think it is about that vulnerability and honesty, and saying that I'm not here to change things, but what can we do? It's been an absolute success for us. And we faced exceptional challenges during COVID, and also the post-session of COVID. And then we got hit by Brexit, and then Brexit 2.0, which brought additional complexity on supply chain and availability of parts. The semiconductor crisis, which we're all facing still in the automotive industry and electronics industry, has added a lot of complexity. But I think it's also provided us with a lot of opportunity to come up with great creativity and innovation about how do we work on things differently.
I love what you're saying about I don't know. It takes a courageous person to say I don't know. Sharnie, tell us a little bit about how imposter syndrome has factored into your career.
I moved from a position looking after South Africa for Jaguar with the retailers that we've got here. I had a budget of 26 million pounds. Okay, I run a budget now of 460 million pounds.
Wow.
That jump for me resulted in a lot of imposter syndrome. I felt like I was an imposter in this position that I got this great opportunity to be partake in now. And I felt very unsure about what my situation is. And then those words of Richard Branson came to mind all the time. He says, fake it till you make it. So, just don't feel that other people has got faith in you. Stop doubting yourself. You wouldn't have gotten this opportunity if it wasn't that other people had faith and seen your talent and support you through this process. I mean, this is now the second year, and we're making great success. That massive jump from my measly £26 million budget
Which
to
was
where we
not
are now.
measly to start with.
It wasn't easy to start, but I mean, it still is. You get that sense of, wow, am I really worthy of this
Yeah.
task that's been given to me?
Tell me a little bit more about courage and how courage shows up in your work and in your career.
I think courage is something different, and it was something that I needed to learn initially, because one, we are females in a male-dominated world. I mean, I know that you do a lot of work with women in mining. I also came from a mining or industrial minerals background. And it is very difficult to be courageous without losing your identity as to being a female within the organization. And that courage, it took a lot of like deep understanding and also challenging some of my upbringing. As you know, traditionally as Afrikaans, we were taught, and I'm sure many cultures were taught about respect for elders. But through the process and the challenges that I've learned, and the courageous steps that I took, was to say that you can still challenge your elders with respect. You can still move forward doing it respectfully and with the best intentions of the organization now, as well as the organization into the future. And then don't forget about yourself. I think the most courageous thing that you can do is don't try and be like the men that you work with or sit with in a boardroom. It's about the courage, about being your true self in that situation and showing up as that person. I think that was for me the most courageous step, is when I started up showing up as my true self rather than trying to imitate everybody.
Yeah, it's I think we all do a pretty bad job of trying to be other people. But becoming yourself, getting to know who you really are and kind of connecting with I guess your intrinsic motivations and your core values also requires a lot of self-reflection.
It does. And I think self-reflection is one of the most important things that we tend to forget about. With self-reflection, so normally, and I'm talking about myself personally, in the beginning, self-reflection was very much chastising or personal criticism. It's about, why did you not say that? Why did you interpret it this way? But then when I started focusing on the positive aspects and the celebrating the successes and seeing how we came through challenges as a team, I think that changed for me the perception on self-reflection. And almost it gets into that level of the gratitude, about celebrating gratitude in what you do, rather than just being self-critical. Tomorrow is another day. It's a clean slate. You can do something different. We all screw up in life, okay? Whether it is at home or whether it is at work, is to say, listen, I'm really sorry. And one of the philosophies that I keep on trying to tell my children is that we all make mistakes. But the way that you show that you're really sorry or want to correct your ways is by not doing it again.
Yeah.
And I think that was for me personally the biggest thing is as a personal learning on self-reflection is don't criticize and then just do it again. Try and identify what the root causes of the habit, fix it personally, and then celebrate the success and the growth that comes from that. I really enjoy journaling. For me, sitting all the way from my team is, I'm a serial note taker. Okay, I've got lots of books that I buy from Typo with very interesting covers that I don't normally show in board meetings. But for me, the journaling and multiple colors of pens and crayons and stuff works. It's also a process of self-reflection, of understanding what does the strategic landscape look like, what was the successes, and talk to the team about that. I think that's the most important aspect, to make a note of that during self-reflection. What is the successes? We only tend to be the bad cop in our own lives rather than the good cop as well.
Yeah, that inner critic voice can get very loud, can't it?
Very, very loud. And I think that, the business coaching journey that I went on with Dr. Phil, which is my Dr. Phil, not Oprah's Dr. Phil, has been absolutely incredible, because we did a lot of self-reflection on what he calls the snake in the ear. That bad thoughts, say like, you shouldn't have done it, you shouldn't have said this, why did you act in that way? Why did you lose your cool? It's because we are human.
Mm.
I think that is the most important thing that I learned is about that inner voice, about calming that inner voice and saying that that is just being human at the
Mm.
end of the day. And don't get that inner voice to break you down.
Yeah.
Don't let that destroy all the good work that you've done.
Sharnie, so many of my clients and mentees are terrified of the concept of networking. What are your thoughts and how do you approach networking?
You know, when I did my MBA through Gibbs, there was a lot of talk about the importance of network. And I was like, oh, that's old news for me because of the fact that I've always worked extensively on the power of a network.
Mm.
And when I transitioned from GNW based in industrial minerals, which was where I was in mining and industrial manufacturing with the part of Anglo American, when I transitioned from them to Volkswagen, it was through the network.
Mm.
It was through the power of having a network connection that I could liaise with to say, we've been transferred to the Eastern Cape for Francha to go and do his internship and community service. I will not have a job. And through the network, it was so important that I could see the transition from, don't worry, we will make a plan and connections, how that unfold to successfully position me at Volkswagen South Africa, where I was worked in product engineering. So I think that network and that intention of nurturing that network, to your point, is fundamentally important because I think about the network now, only not even that I'm looking for a job, but I mean, we're on this journey on modern luxury. Through my network, I can now tap into various people from different industries and
Yeah.
talk to them about what do they think customers want from a modern luxury experience.
Yeah, and I like what you say about tapping into because I think a lot of people build networks and connections. Not everybody knows when and how to ask their network for something.
I think it's very important to be able to ask something from the network. Specifically, if you've got a question in mind, a business problem, or
Mm.
a potential solution that you want to test with your network. You know, I think we're always very hamstrung with organizational strategic direction and those sort of things that we think that's the only guiding or the only North Star that we've got to look at.
Mm.
I think you and create your own path. That's where innovation and creativity lies. And it's just, I mean, create a poll on your in LinkedIn to ask your network what is happening. So I think we forget about the power of asking relevant business questions to our network to inform our own decisions.
Yeah. It's what Tara Moore calls getting away from the whiteboard. We spend so much time kind of designing at the whiteboard, assuming what we think our customers, our network, our stakeholders want, perfecting it at the whiteboard away from everybody else, and then launching something and falling flat. And and so much of what we do is about bringing value to our networks. So ask your network what's valuable to them. What do they appreciate? What do they want? Rather than what do I want and think you want.
I think that's so powerful because the network that that I've connected to, they ultimately are my customers. Those
Mm.
are the people that I want to see driving our products, interacting with our products. So I want their input, not what we think in the ivory tower or your whiteboard
Yeah.
scenario of what we think is what our customers actually really want.
Yeah. So you've had lots of transitions in your career, and I think the thread amongst all of them has been problem solving, really. I'm curious about understanding the transition in each of those positions because each of them have been slightly different and they've required different competencies and and navigating transitions can be very exciting. It can also be quite terrifying when you realize you've gone from a position where you're very competent to a new position where you've got to develop new competencies.
I think there's as you said, there's been a number of serious transitions that I did. So when I was with GNW Bus, I was the technical advisor, then moving into a senior trim engineer responsible for design. And then from Volkswagen, moving into the after sales arena, and then to Nissan, where I was the customer focus, head of customer focus, responsible for big data mining and analytics. And problem solving has always been part of the entire process. I love puzzles. I love understanding what the different problems are, and I like challenging myself. I like digging into new horizons and understanding exactly what is different. What is the new technology can bring us. I love reading, so I do a lot of exploration from that point of view. And I go in again with that complete honesty to say, I'm appointed. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I don't really know what this is about, but hold on, I will find out. And then I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I'm a perpetual question asker, and I ask everybody. Even though I'm not naturally very confident, I will go to everybody and ask, how does this work? What is my understanding here? Check it all the time. And I think the biggest transition for me was from when I moved from GNW to Volkswagen, when I was responsible for the design on the City Golf dashboard, was that transition from going from ceramics, property development, as well as technical advisors to some of the big ceramic houses in South Africa, to going into the plastic field, which I did have in my studies on, but also to start looking at 3D printing. I mean, 3D printing is a hot topic now, but I had to literally like go and search for any information regarding 3D printing, because when I joined Volkswagen in 2002, not a lot of information was available. So it was about the curiosity and my wanting to solve the problem. I think that is the key thing that's always driven me forward. And also, the transition to big data mining or customer relationship management has always been about the curiosity and how do I solve this problem for the customer at the end of the day. So I think those two things, the problem solving and the curiosity, has been one of the key things that help me go in and dig into these specific things and gain a greater understanding and experience of those things. I'm not saying I'm the expert. There's people that I'm not afraid to ask that knows better than what I do. But I also don't go ahead and show up as I know everything.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks for a lot of people moving into a leadership position is, I'm now in this position, I'm assuming people think I know, so I'm going to act as if I know, as opposed to, I'm in this position and I now have a platform to ask all the questions and to leverage all the experts around me and work through them, not try and work as if I know all the answers.
I think that's very true. And I can't remember who wrote this or when it was that I read this article. It was about the great leaders ask great questions. It's about, and I'm reading fiction at the moment where the fictional character is like a CEO of a big organization. He always says that you're not the smartest person in the room, you appoint the smartest person in the room, because then that also reflects back on you and also the ability to ask the question. So I think it is a combination of both. It's about surrounding yourself with the right people and the ability and the braveness to ask the question.
Yeah. I remember somebody saying to me, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I have this philosophy that we all need to manage our careers as a business, and we need to see ourselves as the CEO of our careers. I'm interested in your thoughts on the concept of managing yourself as a business and how that's shown up for you.
I think it's a very important question that you're asking, and something that we tend to forget about it is that one, you have to market yourself like you do a business, like a company like Coca-Cola does their marketing, or Nike, or Porsche, or whoever
Jaguar
does their
Land
marketing,
Rover.
or Jaguar Land Rover does them. You have to market yourself and put yourself out there, because otherwise nobody is going to know who you are, what you stand for, what your skill set is, what you can bring to the table. And I think we tend to forget about that and going back to also upbringing, is that we were always told in an Afrikaans householding to be rather be seen than be heard. You wouldn't like go and be boastful. And I think you forget about that, is that you can still promote yourself without being boastful. You can be just adding who you are about, what is the value that you can bring to the organization without, really going out there and say like, well, look at me, I'm so great at this, because that is not who I am at all. I go like, I put my hand up because I'm bloody curious and I want to know what this is about. And I think that digging for me is also key of what my brand stands about. And then I think it is also about, what do you want to market yourself as? Yeah. You can't go and like everything or promote everything or post everything. It's about making sure that it is funneled in the right direction about who you are. What do you want to contribute? When you sit at the table, what can you bring to the table? I think that is the very important conscious decisions that you need to make about how you show up and how you develop your own personal marketing plan. For me, is very important, and utilize various platforms to do that.
So how are you doing that at the moment?
I'm doing that through your help, of course, with LinkedIn and exploration on LinkedIn, and also just the intentional approach and the challenges that you put through made me think about, what is the message that I want to put out there? What do I want to be known for? And I think that has been part of the journey and the discussion that we've had all along. And I saw the impressions last week were around 4,200 impressions. Yesterday, there was a question that you posed, and I had to go into LinkedIn again on my laptop, and I saw the impressions have gone up to 9,800 just by intentionally focusing on marketing. And I think that, when you talk to your social media colleagues in your marketing department, is impressions is one of the things that they focus on specifically, because it means, how do you show up in people's feed? What do you do? That's the things that every big brand is hunting for. Exactly. So that intentional approach and the proper plan is shown up in the metrics. There's proof in the pudding, brownie. It works.
Yeah, it's double the number of people have heard you giving your thoughts on a particular topic. And whether that's on LinkedIn or whether that's in a real life in-person conference, having that visibility is crucial to making yourself known. It's something that I see with my clients all the time, and it's what you alluded to earlier. I hear them all the time saying, I can't do that, it's not humble. I can't advocate for myself, it's not humble. And it goes back right to what you said at the very beginning about kind of taking time to reflect on what's true for you and what you choose now as an independent, responsible adult as true for you. Because what's true for us as children doesn't necessarily have to be true for us as adults. And often the things we learn that keep us safe as children and we apply as adults, sure, they keep us safe, but they also keep us really hidden and really invisible. And yeah, your story about your metrics doubling, I think, is a really powerful one, because I haven't seen you shouting, I'm so amazing at all. But I've seen you adding value to your network and sharing things that are really informative, and articles around kind of all sorts of things that I've gone and had a look at and thought, oh, I hadn't seen that article. And I've really enjoyed what you've been posting. And I think the metrics show that other people are seeing you and finding value in how you're showing up. So
thank you for putting the challenge out there. I think it's also made me think a lot. And also, you forced me again to be brave, to say, like, basta with what other people think. These are things that I hold value in, that I think other people will benefit from. And just by seeing the doubling in the metrics says, yes, being brave pays off. We can, one thing that my daughter, I tell her a lot, being brave is not being scared. Being brave is just putting the first step, taking that first step and doing something. It's not about being scared. Sometimes when I post something, I think like, oh, they're going to think I'm smoking my socks. But I mean, still, it is about taking a brave step forward to say, this is what I am about. either you like it or you lump it. And I think that hard stance is something that we need to learn at some point in time, is that to say, this is me. It's you if you don't want to like my lemonade that I'm selling, move past.
Well, I'm glad to see that people are stopping and buying the lemonade.
So am I.
If you could give the 20-year-old version of yourself some advice, what would you want the 20-year-old version of you to know now?
I think it's a lot of what I'm telling my daughter, my children at the moment. Is one is that it's okay to be scared, but just be brave and take that first step into the unknown. Because we tend to be, restrict ourselves by the rules and the governance of our upbringing. But to challenge that paradigm, just taking a step, just challenging yourself and see what is within the art of the possible. That is one of the key things that I would have wanted to tell my 20-year-old self. Because then, I'm not saying that I would have reached the career heights that I've done now earlier, but definitely it would have given me more opportunity to explore and grow, as well as be more creative. I think that is the key thing, is we don't want to take that first step because we're just scared, or we're going to fail. Is about be brave, just take that first step and try it.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, because tomorrow is a clean slate. So take the risk today, try it. If you fail, well, so be it. Learn from it, and tomorrow is a new day.
And I think that is also key learning for us as leaders, is that we should encourage our teams to take the first step.
Yeah.
If they fail, so what? You've tried something different. Celebrate the failure, do a little bit of a post-mortem, but it is not about the person who took the step or the idea. It is about what did we learn from that. And we regularly do not create an environment where we encourage our teams to experiment or to take that first step.
Yeah, it's about creating an enabling environment to fail safely, I guess. What would the 20-year older version of you, so 20 years into the future, what does that version of you want you to know today?
I think the 20-year-old older version, which is close to retirement, want me to know is to say also continue being brave and not be afraid to make another radical career change. I've seen that, we all get into a comfort zone, and it's at that event horizon where the most incredible things happen, is when you throw yourself into a completely deep end of something that's completely unknown. That's where the biggest growth happens. And I think that is the message that the 20-year older version would like to say to myself today.
It's a beautiful theme that's run through all of this, and that's be brave, have courage, don't worry about making a mistake, rather leap into the challenge and embrace the growth that comes with it.
Absolutely.
Sharnie, it's been lovely chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Awesome chatting to you as well. Thanks, Bernie. You made me think more on my copious amounts of notes.
Fantastic.